In a world where the unknown whispers in the dark, where shadows move and questions remain unanswered, tonight we step beyond the veil. Welcome to Journey through the EGH Talk Show, where the paranormal meets the unexplained and the truth is never far away. From ghostly encounters to UFO sightings to the mysteries that keep us awake at night. You're not just watching, you're part of the investigation. So dim the lights, open your mind, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew. This is your journey into the unknown.
Hello there, guys, and welcome through Journey Through the EGH Talk Show, live and exclusive on all platforms or wherever we're going from. Who knows where you're watching? You could be watching on YouTube, you could be watching on Facebook, you could be watching on TikTok. Wherever you are joining us, welcome to tonight's show. And have we got a show for you tonight? A show that we have been waiting for this guest for weeks. I've actually been waiting since Christmas for this one, because that is when the first time I come across our wonderful guests. But before I get there, yes, you can all see him, but I'm going to give him the big build-up first. So I'm just going to go through our normal routine and say, Mr. Paranormal Paul, how are we?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Yes, looking forward to this one as well.
I won't ask you how our week's gone because, you know, we just want to get into the chat, don't we, to be fair. Mr. Psychic Psy, how are we?
I'm really good, so I take it you don't want my rant this week, but it's good because I haven't got one.
That's it. Let's keep the rants let's keep them to next week's show. Now, no further ado, it is the 14th of May, 2026. Welcome, Mr. Gary Heseltine, to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, this has been, honestly, one that we've all been waiting for. This was on Christmas Day. Simon said, let's put this podcast on while I'm cooking dinner, put this YouTube video on and watch this guy talk about Rendelsham. And that's what we did. And ever since, I've been watching different podcasts with you on it and everything like that. And I can't wait to sort of get into the depths of this sort of conversation and where this is going to lead us to Rendelsham. I was going to hope more for answers and closure on Rendelsham, but I reckon by the end of this show, it's going to open up more doorways than we've ever probably been watching.
Probably.
I'm going to go straight into it. And the first question that I sort of want to ask you is, what sort of got you into the UFO scene? Before we go into the Rendelsham, just what got you into the UFO scene, Gary?
Going back to childhood, 16 years old, I had my own sighting that kicked off my interest in 1976 in my hometown, or a suburb of Scunthorpe called Ashby, with my then girlfriend. That led to an initial burst of interest in the subject, of which I had no interest prior to. I knew I'd seen something strange because the object seemed to trigger a number of power grid failures in a short space of time, and I moved to a second geographical position, and there was another power cut, and so I thought it was very strange. I went to my local second-hand bookshop. There was nothing else in 1976. It was just before the idea of video, not video cameras, I mean video recorders, VHS, Beta, Max and things like that. Yeah. So the only thing I could get on the UFO field, or flying saucers, whatever you want to call them, was a second-hand bookshop, and I got my first book, Aliens from Space, by Major Donald Kehoe, who turns out to be a major figure in the subject and someone who is a hero to me, because he never diverted away from saying that some UFOs, i.e. some UFOs, are almost certainly extraterrestrial in origin. And that's what he said in the 50s, and he wrote 5 books, and I got his last one. So that's like kicked it off. I joined BU4, the British UFO Research Association, as an associate member, but I never did anything. I went to a local UFO meeting at somebody's house, but that didn't do it for me. And then I kind of forgot about it for a long time. I went away, had a life, had a couple of kids, got married, joined the Air Force, and it really wasn't until the late 90s, that I came across a glossy colour magazine called UFO Magazine, which was written and edited by Graham Birdsall, sadly who passed away in 2003. And that kind of reawakened my interest. And it was through a series of kind of strange coincidences that eventually I approached Graham Birdsall and said, look, I've had this idea for a UK police database, a website of all UK sightings that could be compiled. And would you allow me to write an article? And he said, yeah, okay. So in January 2002, I wrote and had published my first ever article in the UFO magazine in the January issue. And that set me on a course to be a researcher. What I never anticipated was that people would then ring me up and say, we run a group in Birmingham, we run a group in Coventry, will you do a lecture for us? And so I'd never done any public speaking up to that point. And, I would go to these places thinking there might be 10 people there, and there were 200 people there. And fortunately, public speaking came very naturally to me. It was like water off a duck's back. And since then, I've now lectured in 23 countries around the world. Been very, very lucky. I've given testimony at the citizens' hearings in 2013, a mock congressional hearing, and I've actually given testimony at a real hearing in Brazil to the Brazilian Senate in, I think, 2022. So I've been very, very fortunate. As I've gone along, I've started to research other things, including Rendlesham Forest, which I guess you'll want to talk about.
It's probably one of my favourite subjects. I think Rendlesham Forest incident comes up on this show more than any other subject. Would you agree, guys, on this one?
Yeah, 100%.
Probably because it's close to where we are as well. So we've probably got geographically, we're quite close. It's an hour away from us.
But I think it gives us the sense of, it's not just, it's the whole place in general. The whole place in general just gives you this feeling of something. And every time I say, we go there, Gary, sometimes you can walk out there and say, and you used it earlier on when we was talking off air, that it's something is still there.
Yeah.
The energy is still there. Whatever it is still lingering in that place.
It's the only place I've ever been to that I can say genuinely has a strange kind of presence. And I'm not sure what that presence is, but it certainly, and I'm aware of people having sightings ongoing over the years. Members of the public have come to me over the years and said, I saw this. I said off air that I took a group of Danish researchers, UFO researchers, and I took them there at night on one occasion, and I set them on a trail that runs parallel through the forest, parallel to or adjacent to a famous field called Capel Green, which we'll end up talking about later on. But I left them for 10 minutes. I said, look, I'll just have a wander in there, see what it's like at night. I'm absolutely pitch black. Well, little did I know that 10 minutes later, they came running out of the forest back to the car. And, I think there were 3 that went in, and they all came out running. And one of them, a man, was crying. He was so shaken by something that they'd all seen. And they described seeing some lights in the trees above them, because it's all forest, big trees, and then they drop down as little spheres onto the ground, red and white, and that's what freaked them out. And they, one guy was trembling. He said, "I'm never going to go back in there again." And I'm well aware that during the making of the Capel Green documentary that there were strange little incidents that took place with the crew, and I was there on one occasion when I'm at the edge of Capel Green field, which is a farmer's field, famous farmer's field in the story, and we were at the edge, or just inside the field by the edge, and some of the film crew were at maybe 50, 60 meters away, and they'd charged all their battery packs up. These were professional cameramen and whatever, and they all got there, and suddenly all the batteries went dead. And that doesn't happen. It was weird. And in this kind of UFO world, stories are like that are not uncommon. So there's still strange things happening, and an incredible story that took place in 1980 and before with other sightings.
So just a little bit of your background. Obviously, we was talking. You had 19 years in the police. Sorry, was it 19 years in the police force as a detective?
No, it's 24 years in the police, 19 years as a detective. The last 19 years was as a detective constable, not a high rank. I didn't want a high rank. Didn't like the politics. And once you went above detective sergeant, you were not really an active officer on the ground, as it were. It's the DCs, the detective constables, the DSs that lock up the murderers. They do all the groundwork. They gather the evidence, and I liked interviewing. My speciality as I went on was as an advanced interviewer of suspects and witnesses, and that was my bag. I liked interviewing. I liked the psychology of getting statements, interviewing rape victims, murder victims, that kind of thing. And everybody's got a different thing, but mine was interviewing.
And that's what for me personally, this is what is fascinating with your take on Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah.
In my eyes, we've got a police officer that is in the field of interviewing, and without, for want of a better phrase, sort of being able to sort of pick between what is real and what isn't. You have that because you've done it for so long. When it gets to sort of interviewing the sort of, what do you call it, the suspects of Rendlesham Forest, you're going to have I feel that you'd have more of an ability to sort of say, you know what, if this person's telling the truth, I've got a gut feel. I've done this with murderers and things like that.
Well, a lot of police officers, even though they're not advanced interviewers, will get a gut feeling on people telling them the truth or not. But obviously, as part of the training that I had in interviewing, some of it was how to read and look for body language and little traits that people do that indicates whether they're lying or maybe lying. So that all was very useful. And like I say, because I was a specialist interviewer, I'm pretty good at sussing people out very quickly. And certainly if something doesn't feel right, I'll get a feeling that something's not right with someone very early on. And that's a very useful skill to have when you're trying to determine if they're a decent witness or not.
And I think that's very important in cases like this.
Did everybody want to speak to you, Gary?
Sorry?
Did every witness want to speak to you quite openly? Or
some witnesses were very reluctant to speak. In the sense, military witnesses, American military witnesses, I tried to speak with Sergeant Adrian Bustinza for over 2 years, but he wouldn't answer my messages and emails, etc., emails and Facebook messages and things like that. But eventually, through an intermediary who herself was a military witness of a type to an earlier incident, Laurie Rayfelt, she said, "No, Gary's interviewed me, and he's a good guy, and he's only trying to establish the truth." And eventually I got to speak with Sergeant Adrian Bustinza. And Adrian Bustinza is arguably the second most important military witness in the whole of the Rendlesham story, because his various accounts appear over one or two nights, and they link certain events together in a way that was rumoured, but he was very reluctant. He was very traumatised by what he'd seen. The military interrogated him harshly, and that had left a bad taste. He was religious, and what he'd seen on one occasion or a couple of occasions had kind of rocked his psychology of what the world is and his religious base. So he was very reluctant to do any kind of TV stroke for the camera interview. But eventually I interviewed him for 4.5 hours on a transatlantic call. I always say this, it cost me 180 odd quid. But it was the most well spent money I've ever done, because I consider that interview the most important interview I've ever done in the UFO field, because he unloaded, as it were. I set him up in the right kind of a way. I tried to do what's called an enhanced cognitive interview, even though that's designed to do within 72 hours of an incident, and here we were 42 years after an incident kind of thing. But some of the elements I thought I'll try, and the reason why I thought I'd try it is because in advanced interviewing, if you, for example, had a car crash, whatever age you were, probably as an adult, but if from say the age of 18 onwards, and you were involved in a serious car crash, there'll be elements of that crash that will stay with you, absolutely imprinted on your mind forevermore. Details, whether it was raining, what was the weather like, who was in the car, the time of day. You just have a lot of detail because it's burnt into your psyche. Well, when you think of rapes and murders and what witnesses go through, it's often burnt into their memory. Now, if you, for example, are a witness to the UFO incident, and there might have been entities there, then that's going to kind of like sear into your memory. And the question is, how do you retrieve that information that's often lost very quickly? And there are techniques to try to get people to remember. And that's what I tried. And it actually worked a little bit with Adrian Bustinza and one or two other of the military witnesses, even though it's not supposed to, but it did. And they were able to retrieve memories that they'd kind of largely forgotten because of the enormity of what they'd seen. And for example, what turned out to be just, I thought going into it, would probably be a couple of hours. It ended up at 4.5 hours transatlantic through the night. And I was absolutely knackered because he'd just come in from work. So he's in the States and I'm talking through the night. Now, a lot of people don't realize that when you're an interviewer, a specialist interview, it's actually mentally very tiring, because not only are you thinking of the next question, you've then got to absorb what the person is telling you, come up with the next question, and you've got to kind of piece it all together at the same time to get a real sense of what he's telling you, or the person is telling you. So by like 5, 6 in the morning, I was absolutely flagging, and I kind of brought it to a close, which I didn't want to do, but I couldn't have gone on much longer because I was absolutely shattered. For me, a night shift, and mentally you're just having to concentrate so much. But that interview, like I say, was amazing, and we can come back to that later on if you want. But he is such a pivotal person to the story to emerge, and he, cutting a long story short, he confirmed a second landing of a craft, which was different to the Holt incident, which was different to Pennison and Burroughs, which was for a long time deemed the first night, a small triangular craft. The craft that Adrian Bustinza saw was another landing in a farmer's field, Capel's Green, surrounded by security police officers, US security police officers, that it was being filmed on movie cameras. That senior officers turned up, US senior officers turned up, the entities were seen, or life forms were seen. And that had been deemed such a controversial account because the original military whistleblower was a young guy, a 19-year-old called Larry Warren. And he'd been absolutely castigated by several of the Rendlesham witnesses, Holt, Penniston and Burroughs, as soon as they retired, one by one, and said, "Nah, he's making it up." And then other people got involved, tried to say that he was taking somebody else's account, blah, blah, blah. Well, when I actually interviewed Adrian Bustinza, he said, no, Larry Warren was there. He was closer to the craft than I was. So that was like great bit of corroboration. And he confirmed that there were movie cameras there, that the senior officers were there. So that was such a pivotal moment for me. And that's why if I drop dead tomorrow, that would be the most important interview I've ever done in ufology.
Wow.
And I find that really interesting. I think I'll come back to that because I think that's going to sort of towards the end of our conversation. But we have got you on here to talk about your book, Gary. That's what we've got you on here for. So let's bring that in because we know it's all about the Rendlesham Forest incident. How did this book come about, Gary? How did this...
I never intended to write a book on Rendlesham. I really never did. What happened was that I'd been to Rendlesham probably 4 or 5 times with TV documentaries that I've been involved in over the years. So I was familiar with the area and the layout of the geography of the area. But it was in, I think, the summer of 2017 that I got a phone call from what turns out to be the director of the Capel Green documentary, Dion Johnson. And he said, I bumped into Larry Warren a few days ago in the forest and he suggested I speak to you. And so he then asked me to be the lead researcher for a documentary that he was going to put together with no funding, but with volunteers from the film industry and professionals. And he was a professional himself. He was an editor, cameraman, and he made small, short documentaries for TV, adverts and things like that. So he was well known in that kind of world. And he said, would I be the lead researcher? Well, in the many documentaries that I've made over the years with TV, no one had ever come to me and said, do you want to be the lead researcher? I'm usually one of 8 or 10 other people who were in that particular program. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, and I already thought I had a very good knowledge of the case, if I'm going to put my name to it, I best be accurate. So I then decided to do a cold case review and go right back to the incident, to pre-1980, to like the run up to it and those few days over the Christmas period. And I kind of, in doing that, I tried to go through any kind of old publication I could find and look for things that I thought were pertinent to telling the story. Again, at that time, I was not ever thinking of writing a book. After a couple of years, so 2018, 19, coming up to early COVID in 2020, we'd already amassed about 60 hours of recorded interviews, and I'd interviewed Adrian Bustinza, a guy, another very important witness called Steve Longero, military witness, and others. And we had what I thought was a lot of material to get the documentary out that was kind of like supposed to be out within 18 months. Well, by 2020, it was already 3 years. And by then, I'd obtained these very important interviews with really, really important, what I thought was really important testimony and corroboration to certain incidents. And I thought, well, I can't sit on these interviews forever and ever, until the documentary's out. So in 2020, I decided to say, look, I'm going to go away and leave the project. And I'd said, if the film's not out by 2020, then I'm going to leave. because I can't sit on this evidence because I think it's in the public interest. So so important that I thought their testimony was, and that caused a disagreement, and I ended up walking away. So I haven't been directly involved in the project since May of 2020, and of course I always wanted the documentary to come out, but I couldn't sit on it. So it's when I came away from the documentary that I thought, I've got all this material, and a lot of it was so minute in detail, but salient to the story, or I thought was salient to the story, that what was I going to do with it? So I kind of had this time on my hands, and I'd done all this research, and I thought, hey, let's write a book. And so I then set about writing a book. So the process of researching continued, and further interviews followed, and further documents that I found that were pertinent to the story. And then, so the re-research was 5 years, and then it took me 3 years to write the book, which is a hell of a long time. And I can say that the first 6 months was just working out how I was going to tell the story, because it's such a complicated story. And I often say this, is that, in my opinion, the Rendlesham Forest story is the most complicated UFO story in history, because of the moving parts, the agendas at play, multiple nights, multiple personalities, multiple agendas by governments, by the Ministry of Defence, by the American intelligence services, and some of the witnesses, in my opinion, have got agendas as well. So it's a hugely complex story, and the book was self-published in February 2023 on Amazon. Now, it's the first book that I've ever written, and I should have and could have probably got a mainstream publisher, but my reasoning for doing it by self-publishing is nobody knew that I was doing it and when it was going to be finished. I'd gone on air on some podcasts and things and said I'm writing a book, but nobody knew when it was going to be finished or when it was going to be released. Well, in the end, because there's a lot of things going on in the background, and there was a lot of ill feeling by certain parties towards me writing the book, because I was touching on areas that would be uncomfortable for some people because of the information that I'd found and the accounts of other people that might cast doubts on the testimony of other people. It got kind of a bit political, and a bit certain people did not want me to release the book. So, and I thought, well, if I went to a publisher and said it's going to be released on such and such a date, I thought some of these people may well try to delay with legal ramifications, letters, whatever, try to delay publication. If I said it was coming out on a certain date, I think that would have happened, even though those objections wouldn't have stood the test of any evidence. It would have just been done to slow the process down. I was confident in what I'd written, but I thought, I don't want that. In the end, for me, it wasn't about money. It was about getting the truth out there. And I thought, in the end, when it's done and I'm happy with it, I'm just going to slip it out there and say it's out there. And within a day, so many people will get the book, and then I've done the job. I've got this evidence out that a lot of people don't want me to get out there. More evidence in the book than any other book on Rendlesham has ever put together. Factual evidence, put in a very police, documented kind of way. And so that's what I did. So one morning, I think it was the 16th of February, something like that, it was all done. I'd proofed it as good as I could do it. I just pressed the button, and then it was there, and it was gone. And then I could say, there you go. So how many people write a book and do not do any pre-publicity? But to me, it was more about getting the truth out, because I figured that once those first 50 people got the book, you could never take it back. It's out there. And that was more important for me, to get the evidence out there that I'd assembled in that book. So now, and we talked a bit off air before we started the show, is I said, now I have enough material to probably add another 100 pages and further research that's happened since the publication. And there were certain things that I could have put in the original book that I didn't for various reasons, but I would now include in a revised edition. Plus, I found one or two other witnesses, not massive first-hand, I was in the field kind of thing, but they are military witnesses who still have a part in the story that I think is still relevant in establishing the whole of the story, as it were. So I found some more witnesses like that. And, I think now, whilst I could do the amendments and self-publish again, I would try to find a mainstream publisher this time because, no disrespect to Amazon, who do a great job for what they do and allow people like me to self-publish their stories or books. If you have a major publisher, an international publisher, they can get the books on bookstores all over the world and get that story out. And you're not able to do that on Amazon in the same way. Yes, Amazon's in virtually every country, but it's not the same. The distribution is not the same. The promotion is not the same. And so I think if I do the second edition, and it's finding the time to do it, with my busy life, I do a lot of fostering children, so that's taking up a lot of time. But I'd like to do that second edition, but I think I would try to get a mainstream publisher so it can reach a wider audience than the audience now. The audience within that it's hit now, because I was pretty well known in the UFO field, so there's thousands of people that know of the book, but it could be hundreds of thousands if you went through a mainstream publisher. And I think that's the thing is, I think the stories and the accounts of these people that have never been told deserve to reach a wider audience, and that can only be done through a mainstream publisher.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, let's hope we keep everything crossed for you that we can get that, that second book done out and get it a lot further afield. I have got to put my hands up. I have ordered the book. I've just this minute ordered the book. So
another fool.
I ordered it about 20 minutes ago, so I look forward to that. Right, we've got a couple of questions coming in. Yep. Gary, you okay to take a few questions?
Ask me anything.
So Joe has, one of our good friends, Joe, has got a couple of questions for you. Okay, his first question is, why was there a sustained attack on Larry Warren for so many years and still possibly today?
That has receded as a result of my book, because the evidence speaks for itself. There are basically three accounts that prove that Larry Warren was indeed involved in the Rendelsham story and was not some bystander just picking up the story. Sergeant Adrian Bustins had put him in this second landing, which is what Warren had talked about. And of course, when he told his story way back in 1983, late 1982 even, to people, which has remained pretty much consistent, people did not realise that there'd been this other landing. And yet he was the first one for about 8 years talking about an incident, and he wasn't really aware of any other incident until the memorandum came out, and then it talked about another incident. It didn't talk about Larry Warren's incident, which he'd been talking about, but it talked about this, what we called for a long time a first night, involving Jim Pennison and John Burroughs, which was a small triangular craft that was seen in the forest, in Rendelsham Forest. And then, of course, we had in October of 1983, there was a major News of the World Sunday headline, which was UFO lands in Suffolk and it's official. And it was a big splash headline, and it kind of made the story go from only known to local people in the area to certain UFO investigators in the UK, researchers, were aware of something that had happened. But then this news headline kind of weren't in. It was pre-internet. We talk about now things, absolutely just going viral. Well, the equivalent of
Yeah.
in 1983 was this huge story of this incident, and what made it go viral then across countries was the fact that it referred to and actually showed you a little bit of a document which has become known as the Holt Memorandum, which had been written by the then Deputy Base Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt. And it was about an incident talking about this small triangular craft and witnesses, etc. And what was pertinent in the third paragraph, was only three, and he said, well, I went out in the forest, led a small team, and we saw multiple UFOs ourselves. Now, for somebody of his rank, and it was a nuclear base, a nuclear strike base in the event of a Soviet aggression, it was unheard of, basically, for somebody of his rank to put their name and to admit to seeing UFOs themselves. And talking of a landed craft. So that's why it went viral. But Larry Warren was literally the first person to talk about it, saying something had happened, and he only told it from his point of view. And he was on his own till about 1991. Then Colonel Holt retired, and Holt then started saying Warren was never there. He was a drunk. He got kicked out. Blah blah blah. Just went on the offensive, and I thought, well, that's not right. But anyway, that he never backed it up with any evidence, but he said it. And of course, when you're a colonel, you can pretty much say what you like, and nobody in the media is going to actually challenge it because they're frightened of colonels, which is wrong because colonels can lie like anybody. But essentially, that's where the opposition begins from 1991, and then John Burroughs, Jim Penniston retire. Jim Penniston retires, I think, 93. John Burroughs 95, and they go and say, well, we're not aware of Warren's account, so therefore it's got to be a bit suspicious. And at that time, there wasn't the corroboration that is now available that's within the book. But the three people that put Larry Warren there is Sergeant Adrian Bustinza to this second landing, which is this controversial landing that people just don't want to talk about. Why? Probably because it's filmed, and that would have been not good for disclosure. Well, it would have been very good for disclosure if it ever came out, and maybe that film still exists. I am convinced that there was a video and that it did exist, and that a second incident landed of a second landing took place because Adrian Bustinza corroborates Larry Warren's original account that was out there on his own for 8 years, 80-90%. It's uncanny. It's very close. The second person that I interviewed that corroborated Warren being involved on one of the nights of the incident was a guy called Eamon Steve Longero. Now, what made his testimony really interesting is that it turns out they were on the same training course, their same intake. And so there are photographs of them in together at, I think, Lackland Air Force.
Don't do that to me now.
Oh, no.
Hold on. He's still there. Hold on, bear with me a minute. We are just waiting to get Gary back. I think everyone's kicked out, haven't they? I've had Cy kicked out. It always happens, doesn't it?
I was going to say, I've got 6 Simons on my screen. Can you hear me, Russ?
I can hear you. There's obviously a problem with there. Hopefully they'll just... Well, we was getting to the good part, weren't we?
I know.
We was getting to the good part. Hopefully, is what they... If they can just rejoin, hopefully... I've got to wait for them to sort of get kicked out. Cy is just using the same link, I think, over and over and over again. I don't know if I can... I don't know if I disconnect. If you want to finish... no. Regenerate no, like, no. Are you still there, Paul?
I'm still here. I've got 6 Simons on my screen.
I have got 6 Simons. They're just using this. It feels like we're getting the same. Right, Simon should be back.
I left and come back in.
Yeah, hopefully. But I have got a lot of Simons that are
Dead in the water.
dead in the water. Oh no, what is going on here? I don't want to send a new link.
Oh, is he coming back in?
Ghost occupied by, if you continue, panel will be unassigned. Have I lost you, Paul? Oh no, I've lost everybody. It seems to be. Why does it always happen?
I've got about 10 Simons on my screen at the moment.
I think that's the issue. I think that is generally the issue. I just don't know how to unassigned close. We've lost Simon again, haven't we? We must have lost Simon. Right, I'm going to, you just hold fire there. Is what I would, this is crazy. It's just too many. It's not allowing me to assign anyone new.
Okay, now what's going on? All my lights are turning off and all. You see that? It's just gone dark.
Have you got a power cut?
No, one of my lights is still on. Every time we talk about a touchy subject, mate, the computers go weird, don't they?
Absolutely. I don't want to regenerate a new link, but it seems to be that we're getting a lot of Simons coming up.
Yeah.
And I think it's just I can't. It can't cope. And I can't see who's coming in.
Nah.
At this moment in time.
Are you still with us, Gary?
Can you see him?
No, I've got about 4 Garys now, just the top of his head.
Yeah, I can't. I don't quite know what's going on here. I really don't. I don't want to shut down at this moment in time. But can you just ask Simon, have you got? Can you see Simon at all?
Not clearly. I think he's come out anyway.
I've only got you.
Aha.
Who have you seen?
Gary's back. Can you not hear Gary, Russ?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on here, Gary, mate. Oh.
Right, hold on.
What's your screen like, Gary? Can you see?
I think. Are you there, Gary?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Right, I've got Gary back. This is what normally happens when we hit a part where it doesn't like us.
Well, it's rare that it happens, but I've been involved in other radio shows where things have happened, but maybe not as many times as this. But bizarre, because I'm not touching anything, and
no, it's not you, mate. Usually, when we get on a touchy subject, this happens.
It does make you wonder if somebody's putting some kind of interference in. I can only see 3 of you, not 4 of you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get Si.
Yeah, I mean, I've got about 15 Si's on my screen at the moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through them all to see, what we can do. Just play with us, please, minute guys, and and then we've still got Gary and Paul with us, haven't we?
I'm still here, mate.
Gary, are you there?
No, looks like he's gone
again. This is just crazy at the moment. Has Simon back? I'm just losing everybody. I am just losing everybody at this moment in time, which is crazy. How can this be a thing? I'm going to try and send a new link out to people. Let's have a look and let's see what happens. This is a live radio for you guys. And let's see where this takes us. I don't know if this is going to... Is Gary actually speaking? Because I can't hear Gary. So... I can't actually see anybody on my screen at this moment in time. If I'm just going to send new links out to people and see, hello everybody, I am still here. Just as we, I'm just sent out new links to everybody. I've just sent a new link. New link. I think we're all coming back. No, I don't know what... It just doesn't want to know. This is so bizarre. So bizarre. I just don't know. I don't know what to say, guys. I really don't at the moment. Can you see everyone? Because I just don't know. Yeah, sorry, Sue. I do apologise. I apologise to everybody at this moment in time, because I got so many people on my screen. It's crazy, and I don't know what is happening. I don't know why no one is there. I just can't get anybody to stay with us. It's obviously a I'm just trying to get rid of everybody. Please just stay, bear with me, please, guys. If you can, that would be great. If you can't, I totally understand. I am trying my best, guys. It's quite daunting being here on your own. We might have to revisit this. But
Can you still hear me, Russ?
yes, did you have any of the others?
No.
You're the only one there at the moment. So I'm going to send a new link. And then go from there. We wouldn't be able to start afresh at this moment in time. So just bear with me a second. And Gary. Hopefully this doesn't kick you out. I'm just hoping it doesn't. I just want to hopefully Gary picks up his emails. Bear with us, please, guys. We are just trying to find what's gone on. We was just getting to the nitty-gritty as well. That was the most frustrating part of it. So, hopefully, see, it's kicking everybody out. Oh. Is it? Can you see people, Paul?
Me, I've got about 15 people on my screen, mate.
But is there anybody there to talk to?
Gary's back.
Can you talk to Gary?
Yeah.
Right, just tell him aha. Right. Gary, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Now it's just Si that and now Paul's gone.
Have I?
No. No. Gary is still there. I do apologise about this, Gary. Whatever the technology is, has absolutely gone absolutely crazy.
What's really weird is in the last time it cut off, the words came on the screen. You have been kicked. Exactly the words. You have been kicked off the stream. Which is a very weird thing to say.
Well, I never got that.
No,
my screen just went blank.
Can you see Simon?
I can see
all
half of
four
it.
of you. Well, three of you.
But no Simon.
No, I can see Simon. I can see you, and I can see Paul.
Is he talking? Can you talk to Simon? And can he talk back?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Simon?
Right.
And I can hear him too.
Right. Can you just do... Paul, can you talk for me?
Yeah, no problem, mate.
Right, let's try something, because Simon's got about 3. No, not do that. Simon's got about 3 links. And I can't find him.
It sounds like you're seeing the same as me, mate, because...
Oh, no, Gary's gone. Oh, this is just silly. This is just silly. Really silly.
Like I say, it looks like we might have to reschedule this, mate, because I don't want to miss out on this interview. This is getting right in the bit.
Right, just, can you see them at all? Can you speak to them?
I don't know if they're live, mate. All I can see is eyes. I've just sent a picture of what I'm seeing, Russ.
Right, I'm going to end the live, and then we'll come back, and there's a whole reprocess. All right. So just tell Simon I'm going to restart the whole thing, guys. We'll be back. Please just come back to us if you're seeing it. Please come back to us, and and then we'll go from there. All right? I'm going to end it. I'm going to send a new link, and then we'll go from there. All right?
Right, okay.
Because it's just overpowering everything. All right? All right, take care, guys, and we'll be back very shortly. Please just bear with us.